The discoveries born from scientific inquiry have shaped the way we perceive not only ourselves, but also our universe. But what would happen if we turned that inquiry toward the unseen side of nature? What would we find? Spirit? Or the ether? Or perhaps they're essentially one and the same. Various fields of scientific research are already beginning to unveil this hidden world of energies and forces from which all matter precipitates, culminating in the new biofield sciences. Are we now amid a modern-day Copernican revolution in which our views of reality are shifting once again? If so, how will this new synthesis bring greater meaning to our lives? Well, let's cross the electric bridge. Welcome to episode 1 of The Electric Bridge. As we discussed in our introductory video, one of our main intentions with this series is to help bridge the gap between science and spirit by revealing how electricity is the connecting medium by which to build that bridge. Throughout this whole series, we will investigate many subjects related to the electrical nature of life, space, and energy in motion, while also looking at how our own health, vitality, and consciousness are also electric and magnetic forces. This will also include looking at the 3 fundamental types of motion in the cosmos and their distinctive yet interconnected relationship. However, this was more of just a brief preview of what's to come. This first episode will explore more of the foundational principles of this series in order to clearly establish our purpose, so that later concepts in future episodes may spring forth with clarity. In order to do this properly, we will look at how the recent findings of plasma cosmology are pushing the cutting edge of science, revealing a universe that is actively and dynamically alive, much like a living organism, as opposed to the older, more mechanistic model. Let's now begin our first episode. We're going to start with a question, one you may not expect. What's up with gravity? That's what many astrophysicists are asking themselves these days. Isaac Newton's discovery of gravity doesn't seem to be pulling its full weight anymore and is causing a perplexity for those who relied upon it to hold their world together. The dilemma first started when 2 Pioneer space probes that launched in the 1970s didn't travel as far as they were supposed to while they were heading toward the edge of the solar system. if our understanding of gravity was correct. Since then, there have also been other numerous discoveries which simply just don't make sense when looking at it from our gravity-based model of the universe. So perhaps gravity isn't the primary force that shapes the universe. And if it isn't, then what is? Well, let's take a deeper look at the other fundamental force of the universe, electromagnetism, and how recent findings are thinning the veil between the seen and the unseen. Yet before we fully dive into this, let's have a quick recap of the Standard Model and look at how it came about. Since the time of Isaac Newton, academic science has been doggedly pursuing a gravity-only model of the universe, currently regarding it as an expanse of essentially lifeless matter that exploded into being out of apparently nothing and which is expanding at an ever-accelerating rate in all directions, necessarily without aim or purpose. This is the basic consensus within the establishment of academia, and these suppositions have been supported with increasingly exotic theories, such as the Big Bang, general relativity, black holes, and dark matter and the like. Even though science doesn't fully know what gravity is yet, the Standard Model of Physics presumes that gravity is the sole animating force of the entire cosmos. And even though it acknowledges electromagnetism in space, it also presumes that it has little to no influence. In the Standard Model of Physics, all galactic, solar, and planetary formation is assumed to occur purely by chance, and stars are seen as isolated balls of gas cut off from the rest of the cosmos by the vast emptiness of space. All of this conveys a very fortuitous view of life based upon a presumption made centuries ago when our technology was far more limited. Meanwhile, evidence to the contrary is steadily accumulating, which supports instead a more holistic view of the universe, seeing it as a living, vibrant organism, electrical in nature and function. Fortunately, there are repeatable experiments that support this new view. When we look at how plasma is affected by electromagnetic fields within a vacuum or the conditions similar to outer space, the results correlate exactly with what we actually see in our telescopes. Yet these experiments are the result of electromagnetism and not gravity. And given we know that 99% of the cosmos is not a solid, liquid, or gas, but a plasma, and that plasma is a perfect medium for electricity to flow, it only makes the reality of an electric universe that much more realistic. In other words, the paradigm is shifting from a gravity-based model to an electromagnetic model, where galaxies, stars, and planets are all powered by vast electric currents throughout space and held together by powerful magnetic fields. Hence, we live in a fully interconnected universe, similar to the electrical connections within the human nervous system, reconfirming the age-old axiom, as above, so below. Of course, gravity still plays a role in plasma cosmology, but that role has a much smaller influence than previously thought. It's more localized upon planetary masses, and therefore not responsible for the formation of celestial bodies. Gravity is actually a very weak force when compared to the electromagnetic force, which is quite literally billions and billions of times stronger. Ironically, these two forces of gravity and electromagnetism are basically being reversed in terms of their influence and significance. As plasma cosmologists David Talbot and Wallace Thornhill from the Thunderbolts Project have pointed out, from the smallest particle to the largest galactic formation, a web of electrical circuitry connects and unifies all of nature, organizing galaxies, energizing stars, giving birth to planets, and on our own world, controlling weather and animating biological organisms. There are no isolated islands in an electric universe. Though it's probably worth mentioning that this series is not directly connected with the Thunderbolts Project. But with that said, their research and discoveries are truly groundbreaking and will therefore be a primary reference throughout this whole series. It's worth mentioning that most plasma cosmologists are still working at a purely physical level, which in the world of modern science is necessary. However, this series is attempting to go one step further by revealing this more subtle type of electrical force, and therefore peering more into the unseen side of nature to find the origin of electricity. Even though mainstream science has not yet recognized the true influence of electromagnetic fields in space, curiously, the electrical nature of universal processes runs as a major theme throughout the whole of the ageless wisdom. These universal principles have been expressed by all traditions throughout history, hence the name, the perennial philosophy. This includes the Vedic, Taoist, Buddhist, Kabbalistic, Gnostic, and Hermetic philosophies of antiquity, and in more relatively modern times through the Rosicrucian Order, the Theosophical Society, and the Arcane School, just to name a few. All these traditions have played their purpose throughout history by serving the deeper spiritual evolution of mankind. Yet the value of the ageless wisdom is seeing that no one tradition is truer than another. In other words, there are archetypal principles which exist throughout all these traditions. Now we get to our point. One common theme that they all share is the premise that underlying all matter is a subtle energetic expression which gives vitality to all life forms. In fact, do you ever wonder where your vitality actually comes from, other than genetics and lifestyle? In order to understand this energy, we must investigate the properties of space. We know that space is not empty, as our eyes perceive it. Like gravity, modern science doesn't yet fully understand what the fabric of space is actually composed of. There are scientific theories like vacuum energy, string theory, and the Higgs field, which all attempt to explain this deeper layer to reality. The ageless wisdom regards space as an entity, which is etheric in nature. In the East, it is known as prana and chi, while in the Western philosophies, it was first known by the Greeks as the ether, and later it was considered to be the fifth element by medieval alchemists of the Middle Ages. At the dawn of the 20th century, Around the time of the quantum physics revolution, the idea of the ether re-emerged, this time into the minds of scientists, especially physicists. Even though Albert Einstein rejected the notion of the ether in his later years, he still grasped the essential premise when he stated, "Fields are the only reality. There is no physical matter, only denser and denser fields." Yet the esteemed scientist Nikola Tesla greatly embraced the ether and noted its significance when he stated, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all previous centuries of its existence." So then, what is the ether exactly? Well, before we attempt to answer that question more scientifically, let's first revisit how the ancients understood it. Ether in Greek mythology is one of the firstborn elemental gods. He is the personification of the upper sky, space, and heaven, and is the elemental god of the bright, glowing upper air. He is the pure upper air that the gods breathe, as opposed to the normal air mortals breathe. Even though these ancient interpretations are more mythological in their expression, they still provide key insight when read between the lines. Ether is also known as the fifth element, discovered by ancient philosophers and medieval scientists as the subtle halo of Earth's atmosphere, reflecting itself in the microcosm as the human aura or etheric body. Historically, it's been referenced in science as a medium and in philosophy as a substance. The accumulation of these vital life forces in all creatures constitutes the etheric ecosystem of our planetary environment, and stretching outward into the far reaches of the cosmos as the etheric web of space, which is also the waters of space. In the Eastern modalities, the ether is very connected with the human energy system, which is composed of 7 major centers and 49 minor centers at different points of the body. These etheric centers are vortexes of whirling energy called chakras, likened to a spinning wheel. They regulate the overall health and daily vitality of the entire physical body, while also providing the needed energy for homeostasis through the 7 main endocrine glands. They are also associated with the evolution of consciousness and initiation. This is something we'll explore in greater depth in future episodes, so stick around. So as you can see, the ancients had deep insight into the unseen side of nature and the causes behind outer effects, even though they lacked our modern scientific understanding. Perhaps with far less distractions, they had more time to exercise their intuitive perception. This faculty goes beyond mere concrete analysis or logic, which, although necessary, modern science has become so accustomed. Let's now look at how some cutting-edge scientists are attempting to bridge these two approaches between our own inner experience and data-driven measurement. English scientist Rupert Sheldrake and his theory of morphic resonance and morphogenetic fields postulates an intelligent energy field within all nature, influencing all organisms and lying behind the evolutionary process, and is responsible for the passing of information and memory from one generation to the next within plants, animals, and humans. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist, has explained how cell membranes communicate with and are influenced by the organizing field of our bodies, which is consciousness itself, aka the human biofield. Our thoughts and beliefs control and instruct our genes. Lipton says the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. This research gives key insight into what science calls the hard problem, or the mind-body enigma. The HeartMath Institute has revealed the hidden qualities of the electromagnetic field synchronized with the pumping heart and its link with human thought and emotion. They have also shown how the heart acts like a battery, creating far more electrical and magnetic energy than the brain. Their experiment with the Global Coherence Initiative has also shown an intimate connection between the Earth's field and our own field, and how the two influence one another. Nature is much more symbiotic than we have traditionally realized. These were just a few examples, yet all worthy of their own independent investigation, and many of these fascinating ideas will be explored in more depth in future episodes. Now, in moving forward, let's summarize all this information concisely. If the ether is revealing the mysterious nature of spirit, then the new emerging biofield sciences are revealing the secrets of the soul. The electric bridge is ultimately a symbol of the link between the lower and the higher self. This bridge in consciousness is described by the Hindu tradition as the Antakarana, a kind of electrical thread composed of etheric substance that connects all the various aspects of ourselves together. Traditionally, we would define these as spirit, soul, and body. Yet you may wonder how this threefold system correlates with an electric model. Well, consider spirit having a positive charge, whereas our body has a negative charge, and our soul being the magnetic field which connects spirit with matter. This analogy is similar to the scientific understanding of how all positive and negative electric currents produce magnetic fields. This electric aspect of connection will help to lay the foundation for that synthesis of all single men, of which the great poet Browning spoke, and which is also hinted at in the following passage by the Tibetan Dwa Kul. The seventh ray works in connection with the phenomena of electricity, through which all life in the solar system is coordinated and vitalized. There is an aspect of electrical phenomena which produces cohesion, just as there is an aspect which produces light. This will be released in fuller measure during the Aquarian Age. One of its earliest effects will be the increased understanding of brotherhood and its really scientific basis. It is with the increased understanding of the science of brotherhood that the relationship between consciousness and electric phenomena that the electric bridge is centered. It is also a powerful symbol of evocation and invocation within our meditations. In conclusion, let's quickly summarize what we have covered in this first episode. Initially, we looked at how the paradigm in cosmology is shifting from a gravity-based model to an electromagnetic model, thus revealing the properties of a self-organizing universe. Another key aspect of this episode was showing how plasma is the intermediary substance between the tangible and the intangible. Curiously, both plasma in space and plasma in the blood are, in effect, electrified fluids, carrying both energy and various substances, whether it be throughout the body or in outer space. Again, we must re-emphasize here that the universe is an actual living organism and not mindless, lifeless, or void of purpose. It is intriguing to consider that there may be a cosmic bloodstream circulating throughout all living forms and helping to transfer that age-old notion, we are all one, from mere romanticism to a hard scientific fact. On the more intangible side, looking beyond visible plasma, we also investigated the vital life forces and subtle energy currents which sustain all creation with the necessary vitality for all life forms to thrive, and which are more commonly known as prana and chi, and which are both utilized in yoga and qigong. Thank you for watching. This concludes our first episode. And in episode 2, we'll dive deeper into the electrical relationship between humanity and the Earth by looking at the hot topic of climate change and weather patterns, viewing them from the angle of intelligent electrical life. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all our content. And in the video description below, you can find a link to our Patreon where you can help support our work, as well as a link to the next episode. Thank you for watching, and let's continue our trek along the electric bridge.